This is update number 19 on my N-scale railroad. I thought I would talk a little bit today about different eras that model railroaders like to try to represent on their railroad. There are some individuals who model the Civil War, which I think would be really interesting. Probably a little bit difficult to do in N-scale just because it would be difficult to find enough soldiers and cannons and other battlefield equipment and Civil War era buildings and vehicles. There's at least one other individual that models today, by which I mean his railroad is always up to date with what the real railroad is doing. So if the real railroad scraps a locomotive and buys another one, he'll scrap his locomotive and buy another one. So the equipment that he runs on his model railroad is always as close as possible that he can get to the actual equipment that's running on the real railroad. The era that I'm trying to represent today is called the transition era, and it's called that because it's when most locomotives and railroads were transitioning from the steam era to the diesel era, and it runs from approximately 1940 to about the middle of the 1950s, depending on the railroad and how much money they had to invest in new dieselized equipment. The train that you see running around there is a refrigerated fruit car train, and they would be periodically have to stop and get more ice put in the 4 openings that they had on the top of the car. So they were kind of a priority shipment for the railroad. Another priority shipment would be cattle. Cattle also had a requirement. You can see some cattle cars there that periodically the cows had to be let off the railroad so that they could be fed and watered. So that was another shipment that railroads tried to get to its destination as quickly as possible. In addition, during this era, there were also passenger cars which ran on a hopefully fairly regular schedule. So that must have been quite a challenge for a dispatcher to keep all 3 of those types of trains moving and getting to their destination as fast as possible. Here we have a packing house with a refrigerated boxcar that would be able to ship the meat. And you can go around and see the other side here. It's Armor Packing Company. Down here we have a PIE freight that looks like it's making a delivery to the machine shop. And in front of the depot there we have a string of wooden box cars. They were generally being phased out. Probably most of them would have been gone by the middle of the 1950s, and they were replaced by these longer steel boxcars that you can see sitting right here. Other than that, you can see there's a refrigerated Coors boxcar, which is probably making a delivery of beer to Peach Luncheonette. The reason that's there is because I had the Coors boxcar and figured, why not? Other than that, you can see some older style hopper cars at Black Hills Cement, and also at Black Hills Cement I replaced the newer office building, one that was more appropriate to the transition era. I also tried to match the vehicles to the era, but I may have missed some of the cars and trucks. They may be a little bit newer. Also, you can see here I had to remove the Pizza Hut because Pizza Hut didn't start as a business till 1958, so that would be too new. And also I replaced the Common-Go building with an apartment house. Other than that, you can see that I've upgraded the vehicles, and the the tank cars there, you can see, are still being pulled by a steam locomotive. That would be one of the ones that would probably either be being phased out or being used mainly on branch line service. Other than that, I think that's about all the changes that I've made for this week. So I hope you enjoyed the presentation.